Brian Talley, welcome to the Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes.
Thank you, Rob.
Uh, I've been excited to get you on, and I know that you just had surgery, and it was a big deal with spinal surgery, and we'll talk about that in the interview. But it is so good to see you walking. By the grace of God, you look good, and
Thank you.
and I mean you look really good, and you're moving your legs, and I'm just really thankful that you're here to do the interview. We haven't seen each other in a while,
Yeah.
and we used to hang out all the time. So I had to get you here to hang out with me
Hmm.
by by saying, "Hey, I'm going to put you on the channel," and now you're here.
Yes,
Right?
sir. It has been busy. 4 kids, wife, baseball. Just moved my daughter back here from San Diego. Had surgery. I stayed in the chair for a while. Recovering from my neck surgery, and yeah, it's just been really busy. So yes, it is very good to reconnect with you, Rob.
So we're doing this channel, and this channel is to capture the story of veterans, their struggles, what they did to overcome, and it's about encouraging other veterans through the stories of just overcoming. And of all the people that have overcome a lot of things, you know, Brian, it's amazing what you've done and what you've overcome. So let's get into it, and we'll talk about your struggle, but more importantly, the fact that you're here, and we're hanging out, and you're walking. So, Brian, where are you from?
I was born in Youngstown, Ohio. Got a lot of Youngstown blood in me. I guess that's the tough guy in me. When I was 3, my mom left my dad, and her best friend growing up was in the U.S. Navy. And so he said, come out and live with me. So we went to San Diego when I was 3. My little brother was 1. I grew up in San Diego my whole childhood, and at 15, we moved to the mountains of Colorado, where I would end up graduating from high school, and then soon after joining the Marine Corps.
It's interesting because when you were in California, it probably wasn't as bad as it is now. And then so you moved to Colorado. In Colorado, I remember when Colorado was relatively conservative, they hadn't lost their minds. And then you moved to Texas. So it's like the craziness has followed. Please don't let the craziness follow you to Texas.
Boy, I hope not.
Yeah, we've got to fight for that. And
Yes,
then
sir.
that's a whole nother interview and conversation. So you joined the Marine Corps.
Yes, sir.
And tell me the year again you joined the Marine Corps.
94 to 99. I served 5 years in the Marine Corps active duty and a couple years in the reserves. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a lot of hurry up and wait. It wasn't all, sunshine and rainbows, but, through and through, it was a good experience. Got to meet some lifelong friends and shoot some big guns, and get in a lot of helicopter and plane rides, and, got to see the world. So it was a good time.
That is a great explanation of military service. It is a lot of hurry up and wait, but you get to do things that you would never get to do in the civilian life, and I know you still are a Marine. I mean, it's in your blood. It's who you are. And we recently did an interview with General Hummer, and what he said about people in the service. But I know he has his heart's with the Marine Corps. Is we can never pay the enlisted soldiers that serve enough, and enlisted warriors, our Marines, enough for what they do, and you paid a heavy price, but it was after you left service.
Correct.
And it was with the VA. So let's just start with what happened when you sought the VA for back pain.
Yeah, listen, January 2016, my life changed in ways I could have never seen coming or ever imagined. I had an intense back pain that ended up putting me on my back on my bathroom floor, just trying to find any relief that I could. Very long story short, my wife took me to the VA, and it was just full of delayed and denied care. They said that I had a low back sprain, which is weird because I never had any onset of trauma. And they gave me some shots of Dilaudid and Kenalog and methocarbamol and sent me home with a bag of pills. This would go on for 3 separate visits to the ER. And then, I would go home, and that would be, my lifeline. My wife coming in every 4 hours and feeding me, handfuls of pills. Would go on for the next 4 months until a civilian opened me up and found that I had a bone-eating staph infection that was aggressively eating my spine.
You know, I've talked to you about this, and I've heard your story before, and the people that want to hear the whole story, which they need to, they need to get your book, and we'll talk about your book at the end of the interview. But the thing that stands out to me as a provider is why they didn't order a CT scan or an MRI.
Yeah, they didn't do any diagnostic testing. My wife was in tears. A few times I even had panic attacks on the ER floor because I was in so much pain. You know, my wife was consoled by other veterans in there, but you know, I was, you know, I posed every red flag there was to get emergency medical care, and that just did not happen. So I was definitely a veteran that slipped through the cracks, and you know, we thought we were doing everything right by going to the VA and you know, getting going to the ER and me getting my shots and all my pills. We thought that was acceptable care at the time. You know, I didn't know anything else. I had never had this type of pain before, and I had never come down with this type of sickness before. But my wife did plead them over and over again for a simple blood test, you know, and an MRI, you know, that would have detected this horrifying and egregious infection that I had in my body, you know, and could have nipped it in the butt really quick with some antibiotics. But you know, that never happened. So for the next 4 months, I was wilting away and dying in my chair, you know, and suffering great anguish, you know, until a private surgeon opened me up and discovered this surprise on the operating table when he described my spine as looking like it was moth-eaten and, you know, oozing with inflammation. And, you know, just I'm very, very, very lucky to be alive. Most infectious disease doctors that I've talked to over the years say that I should have died in 10 to 12 days. Sepsis should have, you know, set in, and you know, this infection, you know, should have been and could have been very, very fatal. But thank God I'm here today. You know, I'm walking. I do battle pain every day, physical pain, and you know, that's, you know, kind of snowballed into, you know, a lot of mental pain too. You know, you know, I had my livelihood was lost, and we lost most of everything we had. Thank God we kept our home, and that's what gave us our start over here in Texas.
So when the surgeon, you know, found this, it isn't a quick fix. I mean, they found this infection in your spine, and they saw it, and they had to do something. They had to initiate treatment. So let's talk about, you know, after they closed you up and what you had to go through, the long process of recovery, and how that was.
Well, they cut out a lot of spinal bone, you know, disc, tissue that was all infected. They had to start me on a PICC line that went 4 months, three times a day. Some very aggressive IV antibiotics, and you know, for years now, it's been over 6 years, and you know, I still struggle today. You know, physical therapy, you know, so on and so forth. This one infection has created dozens of now diagnoses now in my spine, in my bladder, in my belly, you know, and all the way up to my you know, T-spine and C-spine. So even some cognitive type things, you know, I just had to have surgery on my neck, you know, because you know, I was losing feeling in my hands and arms, dropping things. So there was still a lot of, you know, fear, you know, that, you know, was tied to this, you know, infection that I had that, like I said, it did a slew of damage on my body. And, you know, and that was something that you know, that you can never be prepared for, you know, so.
No, especially you were a hard-charging Marine. You had a business out in California.
Yeah, I owned a custom landscape company in Colorado and in California. You know, so like I said, I was living the American dream. You know, got the family, got the, you know, the wife, the cars, the, you know, all that stuff. You know, and living a great life. And then all of a sudden, life put me on my knees, and it kept me there for years.
So your family rallied around you, especially your daughter, and people that you know haven't heard your story. They need to read your book. It's an amazing book, and it's a great read. I read through it in a day and a half, but I couldn't put it down. And there's a picture in your book that really gets me. It's the chair that you were stuck in for how long?
Years.
I mean, yeah, it was
4 years.
was wore out. It was completely wore out.
Yeah.
And you didn't even have enough money to buy a new chair, but you were stuck in this chair, and your daughter was by your side, and it was horrific. And I know you battled with suicide and all those things, which also people can read about. But let's get to the most amazing part, the part where you decided not to give up, like most people do in your situation, and just become, an addict to pain medication, still strung out by the VA. You decided to fight back, and you went to Congress, and you're not a congressman, you weren't a politician, and you single-handedly got a bill passed because of what? What happened in the VA that caused you to do this?
So after all of my medical malpractice and medical negligence took place, we filed a federal tort claim within the VA for damages. And 1 year later, well, 3 months after I filed that tort claim, the VA called me. They were very apologetic, stated that they were going to be settling my claim, and that the VA concluded that all the doctors and clinicians that were involved in my care all failed to meet the standard of care, and that there was a breach in liability, and that they were going to be settling my claim so we don't lose everything that we've ever worked so hard for. We were a family that was doing everything right. At the 1 year mark, they drop a letter in the mail stating stating a law from 1946 that states that if we find out that an independent contractor is involved in your care, the U.S. government is not responsible for paying out any damages that are done by an independent contractor. So the letter went on to read that we needed to sue that clinician in state court. So they boiled 12 clinicians down to one. They cherry-picked all of the clinicians, found out who the independent contractor was, put all the blame on her, did an about-face, and left me and my family holding the bag with zero accountability, zero justice, and zero recourse. So here I was now suffering mightily physically. Now I'm emotionally and mentally just completely done. That was the kill shot. And so I spent several more months in my chair. This is when the emotional hardship really hit me hard. We're going to lose it all. And I couldn't do anything about it. I was as hopeless and helpless as I've ever been in my entire life.
This is government at its worst.
Mm-hmm.
And government's made up of people, and there's some good people in government. We know them personally, and they're fighting that we would return to a country that's a representative country where they're working for us, and that's the way it was supposed to be. But every time I hear you say this, and I've lost count of how many times I've heard this part of your story, and it still makes me mad. It still makes me like just unbelievably angry that they would be that deceptive,
Ruthless.
Right. And these are people that are put in a position of trust in our healthcare,
And are sworn to protect us.
and sworn to protect us.
I'm going to take this a step further. People say, oh, he's an independent contractor. Oh, so he must have went out in town. No. These independent contractors are walking the halls of the VA hospitals. Inside the halls and the walls of America's VA hospitals, the majority of the employees in there now are independent contractors, because this is how the VA can see their way out of paying any damages for medical malpractice. And also, if an independent contractor commits the medical malpractice, that doesn't go against the VA numbers annually. So medical malpractice numbers have dropped significantly because now they've got a scapegoat. So they just put all the blame on the backs of these independent contractors. So the amount of employees goes down, independent contractors goes up. Very, very profitable for the federal government not to be paying out all these claims for medical errors. Medical malpractice is still a leading cause of death in this country. And really, to have my life destroyed by this due to no fault of my own is one of the most damning things about my whole entire story. And so once this happened, I just laid in my chair and I tried to figure out what in the hell has just happened to my family and what has happened to me. And one day I went to my congressman, Duncan Hunter in California, and I said, I've just been railroaded here. It's absolutely insane.
Because you couldn't sue the contractor because they moved it out.
The letter stated that I needed to sue the state or the independent contractor in state court. They conveniently dropped that letter 3 days after my California state statute of limitations had expired.
Unbelievable.
3 days. So they waited, they watched that clock, and once they knew that that contractor was going to be clean and clear, is when they dropped me the letter.
So,
I went to an attorney. They're like, dude, you're 72 hours past your time. We can do nothing for you. And in addition to that, she couldn't be reported to the National Practitioner Data Bank. So there's nothing on her record. It's like nothing ever happened. And this is the doctor that they put in charge of my care. That all the denied, delayed care, you know, I mean, we're talking simple blood tests here. And I was completely incapacitated at the time. I couldn't even advocate for myself. I couldn't talk. All I was just I was just a body. I mean, my soul was completely sucked out of me. And I'm a guy that's always 100 miles an hour and moving and running and running. And then all of a sudden, you're done.
So you went to Duncan Hunter, the congressman.
Yep.
And short story, what happened with that?
A month later, he's indicted on federal charges, and Congress loses all, trust, and they lose all confidence in my congressman, and he is forced out of Congress. So now I'm living in the only U.S. congressional district in the country without a sitting member of Congress, and this would go on for over a year and a half. Governor Gavin Newsom would not run a special election because the district I was in was a Republican district, and they didn't want to, and they wanted to have one less vote in Congress. So now I've got the biggest VA case in the country, and I've been railroaded, not once, not twice, but now 3 times, and I was done again.
It just shows how these evil politicians really don't care about what happens. You know, they claim it's, you know, for the bigger picture, but really they're just wrecking everybody's lives. And the next step was you had to become your own congressman.
Well, I spent years in my chair crying. I mean, every day. I mean, my kid's tough dad was just sitting in a chair, a broken man. And one day I got up out of my chair and I fumbled to my bathtub. I knelt down over it. I filled that tub up with tears, put it all into God's hands, and I said, guide me, because I'm about to expose some made men, and I'm about to change this law to protect 20.2 million American veterans, from ever going through the hardship, the tragedy, and the horrifying events that led to the destruction of my body, and my life, and so I picked up a law book and I drafted my own bill.
And I don't want to go on and on with that because we have a limited time in this interview, and I want people to go read this part in your book. But when you get Brian's book, you'll see him just studying at a table with all these notes and just getting ready to take this to Congress. And you had no idea what to do. You weren't involved in politics before.
Nope. I've never been involved in politics or anything like that. What I did is I took my fight, I took tenacious efforts, I took kindness, and I took a positive message to Congress. And once I earned my seat at the table in Congress, I never gave up my seat until my mission was complete. And that was to protect 20.2 million American veterans and close this 74-year VA legal loophole that has destroyed the lives of veterans and their families for generations. And I went in there with my entrepreneurial mindset to just speak, to not be Republican or Democrat or independent or Green Party or whatever it is. I went in there and I spoke in third person. This wasn't about me. This was about 20 million American veterans, and this was about our due process rights. I mean, you're talking about having your livelihood stripped away from you and completely stripped of your right to due process to see a federal or state judge in a case of fraud and misrepresentation from the VA on multiple sides, on multiple ends. So this would go on for over 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yes, I
Walking
was
the
a
halls of
tired man.
Congress.
Yes, and I would fill my my pockets up with pain pills and anxiety meds. I would walk the halls of Congress, going door to door, urging lawmakers to change this outdated law, again, that has destroyed the lives of veterans and their families for generations. One bill led to 2 bills, 2 bills led to 3 bills, 3 bills led to 4 bills. You know, I went to both the Senate and House. I had 3 House bills. I had a Senate bill going. And again, I essentially became my own member of Congress. It just didn't come with a paycheck. This was over 11,000 hours of advocacy, over 5,000 emails and phone calls. This is me meeting with over 200 members of Congress. And I'm talking 4 trips to D.C., all on my own time and on my own dime through fundraisers to get me there. So this was an absolute grassroots effort. And like I said, I don't know what got into the body of Brian Talley, but if I would not have fought in this, I would be bitter and I would be living a horrifying life right now, and I may even be dead right now.
Now, I'm trying to cut you off.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for a reason because I don't want to be I don't want this to be the spoiler.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna put something out here, but I really don't want you to answer. I'm just gonna you're responsible. Read the book because this came down to a pivotal point. It towards the end of Trump's presidency, and he came through for you in the end in the worst time in his presidency. So it came down to the wire. Like it looked like it was going to happen. Correct?
Yes, he signed it on the 10th day.
So
yeah,
we'll leave that there, and you've got to read this book because the way this came down was amazing. And in the story, I guess every time I hear it, it's just like I'm hearing for the first time. Now, let's talk about where that prayer led to, because this was taking a toll on you.
Yeah.
You
it still is.
Yeah, it still is. But you weren't a deeply spiritual man. You just said a simple prayer to God, and God started giving you strength. But you were still at a low point. It wasn't going well. And some brothers came and picked you up. Who were they? They needed Brian Talley needed some help, and so some people got behind you, some Marines.
Yeah.
Who were they?
Yeah, John Steelman was, one of the main, folks behind this whole entire deal. I lobbied like I was a member of Congress. I advocated like I was a member of Congress. I went everywhere. I knocked on every single door, and whoever would speak with me, I sat down with, from VSOs to just regular Joes. And John came to DC with me. He helped carry my bags. He brought a chair because I would sometimes just need to stop walking, and again in crucial pain. But I think having Congress see the pain I was in, and the fight that I brought to DC with me in a positive manner. I killed them with kindness. I made myself hard to hate. The tenacious efforts, the calls, the emails, I was always in front of Congress. Even through our most trying times, Senate impeachments, House impeachments, the COVID, the whole country blowing up, fires. And I still remained relevant in front of the media. I still remained relevant in front of Congress because this was important enough to the country to matter. And I think what actually would end up saving my life here is that I regained purpose.
Well, let's talk about that purpose. How did Mighty Oaks help with that?
Oh yeah,
purpose?
Mighty Oaks was great. I got invited. Somebody that cared deeply about me, a retired chief warrant officer, saw that we lost our family vehicle, and he's like, "Hey man, I got this old beater of a car, and if you go to Mighty Oaks, this is in 2018. This is when I was in the heat of battle, and in Congress. It's like if you go to Mighty Oaks, I'm going to give you this car, but you got to go to Mighty Oaks." And I'm like, well, what's Mighty Oaks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting in my chair. I haven't been out of my comfort zone in well over 4 years at this point. So they pick me up and they drive me all the way up to Northern California. And I spent a week with fellow warriors and veterans. And that was the point really that I started to pray a lot and began to read the Bible. To really let go and let God, even though that's is still very hard, to do at times. But I think that's when things really started to turn around for me. Listening to Christian music and always just having that, that time. To myself, it was peaceful.
Yes.
Because like I said, I had lost my purpose, and I'm a passionate man by trade, so that helped wake me up a little bit, like I said, once I got God behind me, there was no stopping me, at all.
That's amazing, and the most amazing part is the bill passed.
Yeah.
Not just one bill. You got, how many bills did you get passed?
Well, it was all lumped into one.
It was all lumped into one.
Right. So, there's still a lot of work to do in Congress. This bill that I wrote passed. But by the time when I started it, Mark Meadows, former Congressman Mark Meadows, former Chief of Staff of President Trump, was one of my huge champions. And then also I had a Democrat champion, Congressman Mike Levin. So by the time it started over here and then ended over here, there was a lot of things that were cut out of the bill. Okay, we had to sit down and we had to have a simple conversation about what's really important to close this loophole right now and what can we cut out of here so we can pass. Okay, so ultimately what the bill does, right, is it protects all veterans. So once you file a tort claim, the VA has 30 days now to let the veteran know what the employment status is of the clinician that hurt the veteran, right? So that was the main thing. And then there's, about 4 other items to that. The full bill is got 20 things in it that will completely protect the rights of every veteran. And like I said, the bulk of the bill that we needed to get done, we got done, and it passed. But there's still a few other things. We still have some unfinished business, if you will, that will completely, protect, all veterans once they fall victim to VA medical malpractice. And like I said, the VA is not all bad. Look, I just had surgery at the VA, and it was great. I had a good experience.
I have. I've had some. The last time I was down there, the last 3 times I was down there, they were amazing. They were nice. They've gotten me in. I think that the things that Trump did when he was as a president completely transformed the VA in the sense that I noticed that the care that I received shortly after he became president was changed significantly, and there was a lot of things that he just did right as a businessman to get the VA pointed in the right direction. My fear is that, with the inept leadership we have right now, it's gonna go back to the way it was. So you just had surgery there, and you had a good experience.
Yeah. I had a good experience. Everything went well. I think the VA doctors and clinicians, I think their hearts are all in the right place. This is a battle between the Office of General Counsel and the veteran community. The white collar workers working on the 7th floor on Vermont Avenue in the Department of Veterans Affairs in Washington, D.C. I think those folks are working against the veteran community when they are sworn to protect us. I mean, those folks are there to handle claims against veterans that were, injured. And the thousands of veterans before me that have been killed by this very practice. I was a strong man when this happened, and I was 99% done. 99% done. I had 1% left to give. And once I put it all out there and I made myself vulnerable and I held myself accountable every single day with my Facebook page, The Tally Bill,
Yeah.
I put everything out there and I began to get 1% better every single day. And that magnified into a man standing up before Congress and having a bill passed in his name to protect 20.2 million American veterans. It gives me goosebumps every single day. That I think about it, and I still can't figure out how I did it. I just didn't stop.
I think you know.
Yeah,
God,
it's
God,
God
God was
I
in
mean,
it.
it's
and-
it's unprecedented. It's miraculous, and I'm not, and I'm a very humble man. I mean, and this story has humbled me to no end. But I went into the most divided Congress in our country's history, and I was able to pass a bill that would give Trump a lot of credit, and they hated Trump.
Yeah.
And to do that is just.
It just shows.
I don't have any words.
It just shows with the the will to see it through, empowered by a loving God, what anyone can do, and how the impossible can be made possible if people would just persevere.
Yeah, that's it.
In Jesus' name, and that's a key. Okay.
Yeah, I never kept swimming. I just kept swimming, and there was times I was underwater and I was drowning and I was down to my last breath, and then I'd come up and I'd get, I would take that breath of air and I would be rejuvenated for a little bit, and then I'd start sinking again, and then I'd get up and I just kept swimming and swimming and swimming until, we finally crossed the finish line. And once we crossed that finish line, it was a sense of I can breathe and I can move on with my life, because I couldn't move on with my life knowing that this loophole was out there and how dangerous it was. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do anything about it. Like I said, stand up for the good of the country. Stand up for the good of the country, as we are supposed to do as Americans. It's our civic duty. If you see something, say something. If you can fix it, bring a solution to the table. Without that solution, do you think the members of Congress would have done something about it? Hell, they've been waiting 74 years to fix this. Why hasn't it been done before? Because they know it's a very profitable way to save the U.S. government a lot of money. The VA, $300 billion budget a year, okay, they could start keeping a lot of that for themselves. And, and it's not right. And, so to stand up and fight for the good of the country, fight for what's right, and stand up, with my core values and my beliefs, that's all I could do.
Brian, thank you for being on this episode of Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes. And you're my hero, man. Thank you for fighting for me. And let's talk about your book.
Sure. This is a book that I wrote shortly after the bill passed.
Hold up, make sure they can see it.
I took a lot of notes when I was in this fight in Congress. And the book was fairly easy to write because I had all the information already, in front of me. All I had to do was plug and play. I am a Marine, so there is a lot of pictures in it, but the pictures do tell the story. Pictures do tell the story, and the title is "I Didn't Choose This Job, It Chose Me," and this is something that I didn't enjoy doing. This is something that I had no formal training in. I was a custom landscaper Marine. So, you put a rifle in my hands and you stick a shovel in my hands, and now I was drafting and writing bills in Congress. So, again, I didn't choose this job. It chose me. I guess God chose me as the one that he knew that wouldn't quit and wouldn't give up ultimately, even when I was down to my last 1%.
Yeah, every time you give me one of these, I have to give it away. So you'll need to sign this one for me so I don't give it away. Because it's more important for me that, this gets in the hands of every reader. So you can buy this. Where can you get this?
Anywhere books are sold online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whatever. Amazon is the best place to get it. And so you would just do a Google search for Brian Talley book. Or I didn't choose this job, it chose me, and like I said, you can just get it, add it to your cart, and happy reading. And every veteran I think in the country should read this book. It's very educational. You gain a lot of knowledge, and really at the end of the day, whoever decides to pick up the book and read it, it's going to add a lot of value to their everyday life.
It's also going to show what you can do.
Yeah, there's
what you can do as a legislator, as a congressman. I'll put
yeah.
I'll put
So
those,
I'll
I'll put those up on the as a picture of those up on the
right
on the site. But if you want to hear Brian speak, he's got these flyers that he brought in, and I'm going to actually put a picture up at the end of this video so you can see that. I'll also show you where you can order the book, and on this you'll be able to contact Brian as a speaker. But I don't want you just to buy one book. I want you to buy 2 of these books and then give one away. It's important because Brian is not making a bank on these books. What happens with this money is this money helps him continue the fight.
Yeah, I make $5 a book on Amazon.
Yeah.
Because I was a self-publisher, and I paid. I went through Ingram Spark, and they put it all online and all that stuff. And I actually wrote the book, unlike a lot of folks that say they write the books, but so. So it's spoken in my words, true words. But the most important thing I think we could take away from today is that the book, it has everything that's included right here: motivation, inspiration, resilience, teamwork, perseverance, leadership, overcoming adversity, and personal development. You will learn all of that in this book, and you will see it, and you will actually, see that I am a living testament to everything. It's all those words there.
Well, Brian, thanks again for
Yes,
being
sir.
on the program.
Thank you.
And you're a hero. And we're at the Honor Cafe, and it's great doing these videos here because there's a lot of people usually coming through and eating while we're doing these videos, and it's an amazing place to come and eat. But it's where we got together and met and started talking for the first time, and that's what's neat about the Honor Cafe is so many amazing veterans that you meet with stories like yours, but your story is way more unique than most I've ever talked to. Again, thank you for doing this, for what you've done for veterans, but most importantly, I just really want you to know that whatever struggle you're going through, we've got your back, and you're never alone because you're part of the Honor Cafe, you're part of the Hall of Heroes. Because you're our hero, you're our hometown hero now, and we've got your back, brother.
Thank you, and I have all your guys' back too. I've been coming here, supporting Honor Cafe and Chris Sadler since the beginning. Since he opened this place, and it's been a great place to gather with folks like you, and to break bread with like-minded individuals, and the camaraderie again, the smells. It smells like I'm in the chow hall. It smells like I'm in the Marine Corps.
But
So
it's not
a great
chow
place.
hall food.
No. I mean, it's 5-star food. But
It's
hey, I love the
5-star
chow
food.
hall.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I'm gonna break it to you. I love the chow hall.
Yeah.
Because I was a big eater when I was a Marine Corps. I was a big Marine. I wasn't a overweight Marine. I was just a thick Marine, and
Yeah.
I ate probably three or four trays of food every single time. So yeah, I can eat anything.
But this is cuisine here.
Oh,
All
yeah,
right.
5-star.
Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes.